May I now call upon Dr. Kavan Vyas. He is going to present a paper titled Social Determinants of Health and Sanitation. Dr. Kavan Vyas.
Most respected Padma Bhushan Dr. Bindeshwar Pathakji, Dr. Neil Rattanji, Dr. Chowdhuryji, Dr. Saxena ji, and Dr. Waghela-ji, other distinguished scholars on the dais and off the dais, and my dear students. This topic, social determinants of health and sanitation, is a topic too big to be presented in a session. In fact, it is food for a full conference. So I will be focusing on the social gradient of health aspects. Social gradient in health, for the benefit of those who are not familiar, especially students, means it refers to the fact that inequalities in population health are related to inequalities in social status. For example, if you take socioeconomic scale, those who are in socioeconomic class 1, class 2, and up to class 5, those who are richest are likely to experience most number of morbidities, and those who are the poorest, those who are rich are likely to experience least morbidities, and those who are the poorest are likely to have more number of morbidities. So that is the concept of that. So this topic will be viewed through the prism of the concept of social gradient. I have a couple of tables. It's inappropriate to read out from table when the table is not before you. But nevertheless, I would like to mention that the NFHS 4 survey has brought out with the result that the number of households, the percentage of households with improved drinking water source is 91 in urban areas and 89 in rural areas. Compare this with the Swachhata Mission, the Swachhata Report 2016, which says that the number of households or percentage of households with access to water for use in the toilet is just 42.5%, which means a large number of households do not have water facility in the toilets. Thank you. Unfortunately, the laptop is not compatible with the cable. So the NFHS data for drinking water facility is impressive, but at the same time, the Swachhata report, water facility available in the toilet is dismal. It is easy to criticize a program. So please note that I am not criticizing the program. It is easy to make comments about a program, especially a mammoth program initiative, a social initiative like Swachh Bharat Mission. In fact, no other prime minister has talked about the poor women waiting till sunset to relieve themselves. So no, I don't think any other prime minister of this country or any other country has thought about the woes of women. So it is a commendable mission. So the next is, that's about the statistics. And the households with sanitary toilet in rural areas is 45%. So whenever we talk about the percentage of people who still practice open air defecation, we have to keep this in mind. Nevertheless, it is heartening to note that thanks to the Swachh Bharat mission, the number of toilets in both rural and urban areas is shooting up. The pace of constructing toilets has improved many-fold. For example, in Bihar, in just 1 week, 850,000 toilets were constructed. That is impressive. But at the same time, it has to take into many other aspects, including provision of water in the toilet. So that is not a criticism, but a constructive suggestion to include these aspects while a mid-course correction, if at all it is done, for the mission program. So the practice of open identification is still prevalent. There are many reasons attributed to it. Now let us come to the socio-economic status part of it, the social gradient of health, social gradient in health. So it will, quite naturally, it will be the below poverty line people who will be practicing open identification. Most number of cases, it will be the below poverty line people. Unfortunately, the Swachh Bharat mission has got a provision to provide special grant for this, but not only for the poor people, below poverty line people, but also the socially excluded categories, that is the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, etc. So that will be taken care of. But the problem of open identification still remains. So how to tackle these problems? So there are many reasons. One is personal preference for open identification. There is a toilet at home, but I don't like that. I prefer open identification. And for many people, it's an opportunity in the villages, an opportunity for socializing in the morning. So that's one of the reasons. Another is traditional or cultural practice. Some people are not comfortable with sharing their toilet with others in the family, especially women. In fact, there was a report that one man is not comfortable with sharing, using a toilet which is being used by his daughter-in-law. So there are strange reasons for not using. And remember, all these are less educated or uneducated people. That is why I am repeatedly asking to keep in mind the social gradient part of it. And water supply. Construction of toilet is picking up at a fast pace, but at the same time, provision of water supply is not in the same pace. Not surprising, because water is a natural resource. But there are ways and means to tackle this problem. I shall talk that in another 2 minutes. The other reasons are, another reason is technical, which means the complaint is that people are not using toilet at home because the pit gets filled up fast. The pit is smaller. So poor people cannot afford, for example, a municipality managed drainage. Then other social factors, social exclusion. I could witness one problem when we took our students to one of the areas. The two communities are staying in the village, and one community has got a community toilet, and the other group of people staying in the same village are not permitted to use the toilet because of caste difference. One caste cannot use community toilet constructed and used by another caste. But the people who are not permitted to use have to come here and clean the toilet. So that's another reason. Another example for social exclusion is the poor, which I have already mentioned. And the gender is another aspect. First of all, NFHS 3 brought out the fact that 50% of Indian women are not permitted to go out of their home on their own, alone. They are not permitted to go alone out of home. If they do not have a toilet at home, and if they are to use a community toilet. So this aspect, the gender acts as a barrier. And then, of course, the lack of awareness about the consequences of open air defecation, especially health consequences. So there are solutions for these challenges. And in fact, the Swachh Bharat mission has got some solution for some of these aspects. So how to address the social exclusion aspect? For caste-related issues, constructing separate community toilets for different caste groups is not advisable, socially speaking. So the government has to intervene. Administrative intervention is needed. But fortunately, the government has, as I mentioned earlier, under Swachh Bharat mission, is giving subsidy for below poverty line and scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other socially backward communities. So that might solve the problem and improve the improve utilization of the services and eventually their health conditions. Another aspect is empowerment of women. Economic empowerment by helping them to organize self-help groups. And another aspect is to empower them through health education. It is easier said than done. Not just health education, but we need to make them health literate. Literacy is empowering the individual or empowering the community, not only by making available health information, giving access to health information, and enabling them to use that information for health promotion, improving their own health. So one step ahead of health education. So for this, the government could harness the fruits of information technology. Mass media can be used for this. Smart classrooms in schools can be used for this. And another aspect is some of the governments, state governments, are distributing free mobile phones. So if it is a basic set, the government can make phone calls, send voice calls to those who are illiterate. Because poor people may not be having smartphones. They may be having basic sets. So for them, voice calls will be helpful. And for those who are illiterate but having smartphones, not only voice calls, but also pictorial messages and videos could be sent. As far as water supply is concerned, as far as water supply is concerned, some out-of-the-box solutions needs to be thought about. One is we have a very long coastline. So processed seawater could be distributed exclusively for use in toilet in those villages where water supply is not available in toilets. Another option is the distribution of effluent from processed water from effluent treatment plants of industrial units. So that could be distributed exclusively for use in toilets. The problem is that instead of having one pipeline for drinking water, we should have two pipelines. So one for drinking potable water and one for use in the toilets. Cost of infrastructure will be more, but this is the time to implement that along with the Swachh Bharat mission. And last but not the least, leadership and community mobilization at every village or every ward. In fact, we need a Bindeshwar Pathakji in every village of this country and every ward, if not Sulabh in every village. So with that, I conclude, and I thank the organizers and the sponsors and for giving me this opportunity, and especially Dr. Vaghela. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kavan Vyas, for your paper on social determinants of health and sanitation. You have highlighted different socio-economic scales then how kinship relations, gender, caste factors, water, etc. affect sanitation,